Commander Vextar drummed his long claws against the metal table, making a sharp clicking sound that echoed in the small room. The walls were bare and white, with only a single light hanging above them. This was where the Coalition Navy questioned soldiers after big battles. Today he was here to check if human reports were true or just lies. Across from him sat a human female who looked very ordinary. Lieutenant Yuna Kim was small compared to most soldiers he knew. She wore a clean green uniform with only a few medals on her chest. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her dark eyes looked calm. She did not seem nervous or scared. This made Vextar even more suspicious. He opened the file on his tablet and read the numbers again. The report said she had killed 2,847 enemy soldiers in only 3 years of service. She had fought in 17 different battles on many different planets. These numbers were crazy. Even the best Alterian warriors, who were known across the galaxy for being fierce fighters, rarely killed more than a few hundred enemies in their whole careers. Human, Vextar said, his voice deep and rough. I have read your file many times. These kill numbers cannot be real. Yuna did not move. She kept her hands folded on the table and looked straight at him. Which part do you think is wrong, sir? All of it, Vextar said, leaning forward. His blue skin darkened with anger. My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. Our greatest heroes have kill counts of maybe 500. You humans have only been in space for what, 50 years? And you expect me to believe that one small female like you has killed almost 3,000 trained soldiers? Yuna tilted her head slightly. You think I am lying? I think your people like to tell big stories to make themselves sound important, Vextar said. He had heard about human movies and books that were full of impossible heroes. Maybe you killed a few dozen enemies and your commanders added extra numbers to make humans look good. Maybe they think other species will be scared if they believe humans are super fighters. The room was quiet for a long moment. Yuna looked at her hands, then back at Vextar. Her face showed no anger or hurt feelings. This surprised him. Most soldiers got upset when someone called them liars. I understand why you doubt me, she said in a soft voice. The numbers do seem impossible. When I was young, I would not have believed them either. Then you admit they are false? Vextar asked, thinking he had won. No, sir. They are actually low. Vextar's mouth fell open. His translator must have made a mistake. Low? Did you say low? Yes, sir. The official count only includes confirmed kills where we could check the bodies or had clear video proof. Many battles happen in space or on planets where we cannot go back to count. The real number is probably much higher. This human was either completely crazy or the best liar he had ever met. Vextar had fought in 12 battles himself and had killed 37 enemies. He was considered a hero among his people. The idea that this small human had killed 100 times more enemies than him was stupid. Show me proof, he said, hitting the table with his fist. Show me something that proves these numbers are real. Yuna reached into her uniform pocket slowly, like she did not want to scare him. She pulled out a tiny black cube no bigger than her thumb. She placed it on the table between them and pushed it toward him with one finger. What is this? Vextar asked. Battle records, Yuna said simply. Video files, mission reports, tactical analysis, enemy identification, weapon signatures, witness statements, medical reports, and kill confirmations from every mission I have ever been on. Vextar picked up the small device. It was warm from being in her pocket. All of your missions are on this tiny thing? Not all of them, Yuna said. Just the ones I am allowed to share. The classified missions need special permission to view. You mean there are more? Yes, sir. Much more. Vextar stared at the device in his hand. Part of him wanted to throw it back at her and walk away. These claims were too big to believe. But another part of him was curious. What if she was telling the truth? What if humans really were that dangerous? He looked back at Yuna. She sat perfectly still, watching him with those calm dark eyes. She did not look like she was trying to trick him. She looked like someone who was just telling the truth and waiting for others to catch up. Where should I start? He asked, surprising himself. Yuna smiled for the first time since entering the room. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something terrible that others did not. Start with folder 1, she said, settling back in her chair like she was getting ready to wait for a very long time. Vextar plugged the small black device into his tablet with shaking hands. He expected to find fake videos or made-up reports. Maybe some propaganda films that humans used to scare their enemies. Instead, his screen filled with hundreds of files, all organized in neat folders with numbers and dates. He clicked on the first folder. The name made him pause. Kepler 442b Campaign Private Y. Kim, first deployment age 19 standard years. 19 years old. When Vextar was 19, he was still learning how to hold a plasma rifle properly. He opened the first video file and immediately wished he had not. The footage came from a helmet camera. He could see through the eyes of young Yuna Kim as she moved through a thick jungle on an alien world. The plants were purple and black and strange sounds came from everywhere. Her breathing was steady and calm through the audio system. Too calm for someone so young in their first real battle. "Contact ahead," came a voice through her radio. 3 enemy soldiers by the river crossing. Vextar watched as Yuna moved like a ghost through the trees. She did not make any noise. She did not step on branches or push leaves aside. It was like watching a predator hunt prey. When she finally saw the enemy soldiers, she stopped behind a large tree trunk. The enemy soldiers were hegemony troops, wearing their red and black armor. They carried heavy weapons and looked alert and dangerous. These were not new recruits. These were experienced fighters who had survived many battles. Yuna studied them for exactly 30 seconds. Then she moved. What happened next made Vextar's blood turn cold. The young human moved with speed and precision that seemed impossible. Her first shot hit the leftmost enemy in the head before he even knew she was there. The second shot came half a second later, dropping the middle soldier. The third enemy spun around trying to find where the shots came from, but Yuna had already moved to a new position. She killed him with a single shot through a gap in his armor that Vextar had not even noticed existed. Total time from first shot to last, 4 seconds. 3 confirmed kills, came her calm voice through the recording. Advancing to checkpoint 2. Vextar paused the video and stared at the screen. He rewound it and watched again. Then again. Each time he saw the same thing. Perfect shooting, perfect movement, perfect tactical thinking. This was not luck. This was skill at a level he had never seen before. He opened the next file. Then the next. Each video showed the same thing. Yuna Kim moving through different environments like she had been born to fight. She killed enemies in swamps, in caves, in burned-out buildings and on open plains. She fought in the rain and in bright sunlight. She used different weapons, different tactics, but the result was always the same. Enemy soldiers died. She lived. One video showed her trapped in a building surrounded by 12 enemy fighters. Vextar was sure this would be where her luck ran out. Instead, he watched her use the building itself as a weapon. She knocked out supports to collapse parts of the ceiling on her enemies. She used broken glass and metal pieces as traps. She turned off the lights and fought in complete darkness, where her enemies could not see but somehow she could. When it was over, all 12 enemies were dead. She walked out with only a small cut on her arm. Another video showed her fighting underwater. Vextar did not even know humans could fight underwater. But there she was, holding her breath for impossible amounts of time while hunting enemy divers like a sea monster from ancient stories. She moved through the dark water like it was air, killing targets with underwater weapons that most species could barely lift. By the time he finished watching folder 1, Vextar realized his hands were shaking. The folder contained exactly 127 individual kill confirmations, just like Yuna had said. Each kill had a video recording, a tactical report explaining what happened, and medical confirmation that the enemy was dead. But the numbers were not what scared him most. What scared him was the way she fought. Yuna Kim did not just kill enemies. She studied them. She learned their weaknesses. She turned everything around her into a weapon. She fought like someone who understood war better than soldiers with 50 years of experience. And this was just her first 3 months in the military. Vextar looked across the table at Yuna. She had not moved during the 2 hours he spent watching her files. She just sat there, patient and calm, like she knew exactly what he was thinking. "This is just one folder," she said quietly. Vextar's mouth was dry. His translator was working fine, but he still could not believe what he had heard. "How many folders are there?" Yuna's dark eyes seemed to look right through him. 43 folders on that drive. "But like I said, those are just the ones I can share." Vextar stared at the device in his hands. 43 folders. If each folder was like the first one, then the kill count in her file was not just real. It might actually be too low. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Vextar began to understand why the enemy had started to fear humans. Vextar's claws clicked nervously as he opened folder 2. His confidence was already shaken, but he told himself that maybe the first folder was special. Maybe Yuna had gotten lucky on that first planet. Maybe the enemy soldiers there were weak or poorly trained. Folder 2 was labeled Asteroid Mining Station Raid Corporal Y. Kim Zero Gravity Combat. The timestamp showed this mission happened 6 months after Kepler 442b. Yuna was still very young, but now she had some experience. The first video file made Vextar feel sick to his stomach. Fighting in zero gravity was something most species avoided. It was confusing and difficult. Soldiers floated around helplessly, unable to aim properly or move where they wanted to go. Most space battles happened inside ships with artificial gravity for exactly this reason. But Yuna moved through the floating metal corridors of the mining station like she had been born in space. She pushed off walls and ceiling to change direction instantly. She spun and twisted in ways that should not be possible. When enemy soldiers tried to shoot her, she was never where they expected her to be. Vextar watched her kill 15 enemies in the first 10 minutes. She used their own confusion against them. When they floated helplessly after missing their shots, she was there to finish them. She even used their dead bodies as shields and weapons, pushing the floating corpses into other enemies to confuse them. Target-rich environment, her calm voice said through the recording as she reloaded her weapon while floating upside down near the ceiling. Proceeding to secondary objective. By the end of that mission she had killed 43 enemies without getting hurt once. The mining station was cleared in less than 2 hours. Vextar opened folder 3 with trembling hands. This one was labeled Underwater Base Assault Corporal Y, Kim Aquatic Operations. The mission had taken place on an ocean world where the enemy had built secret bases under the water. Most species could not fight underwater at all. The pressure was too much, the water slowed down weapons and seeing targets was almost impossible. Vextar's own people, the Altarians, would die instantly if they tried to go that deep underwater. But there was Yuna again, moving through the dark water like some kind of sea monster. She wore special equipment that let her breathe underwater, but she moved like the water was her natural home. She hunted enemy divers through underwater caves and tunnels, striking from shadows they never saw coming. The most disturbing part was how she used the water itself as a weapon. She broke underwater pipes to create powerful water jets that knocked enemies into walls. She damaged their breathing equipment so they would drown. She even caused controlled floods in parts of the base, trapping enemies in areas where they could not escape. 59 confirmed kills in that mission. All underwater. All in complete darkness. Vextar began to see the pattern now and it terrified him. Yuna was not just good at fighting in different places. She was better at fighting in each new environment than the enemies who lived there. The asteroid miners had spent their whole lives in zero gravity, but she fought better in space than they did. The underwater base soldiers were specially trained for aquatic combat, but she hunted them like they were helpless children. Folder 4 showed her fighting in a toxic atmosphere where the air itself could kill most species. Folder 5 was combat inside a burning city where the temperature was hot enough to melt metal. Folder 6 took place on a world with gravity so strong that most soldiers could barely walk, but Yuna moved and fought like the crushing weight meant nothing to her. Each folder showed the same impossible thing. Humans did not just survive in deadly environments. They became more dangerous in them. But the folders also showed something else that made Vextar's heart race with fear. The kill counts were getting higher. Folder 1 had 127 kills over 3 months. Folder 7 had 200 kills in just 6 weeks. Folder 12 documented 340 kills in a single month-long campaign. Yuna was not just maintaining her deadly skills. She was getting better. She was learning faster than should be possible. Each mission taught her new ways to kill and she remembered every lesson. By Folder 15, Vextar realized he was not just looking at one exceptional human soldier. The reports mentioned other human names. Other impossible kill counts. Other warriors who fought like demons in environments that should have killed them. How many humans are like you? Vextar asked, his voice barely a whisper. Yuna looked up from her hands. She had been patient and quiet while he spent 4 hours reviewing her files. Now she smiled that cold smile again. Like me? Not many, she said. But there are others who are much better. Vextar's tablet showed he still had 28 more folders to review. 28 more collections of impossible kills and inhuman fighting skills. His hands shook as he realized the truth that was staring him in the face. Humans were not just another species that had joined the galactic community. They were something else entirely. They were a species that had evolved to be perfect killers, and now they were loose among the stars. Vextar's eyes burned from staring at the screen for so long, but he could not stop. Each new folder revealed something worse than the last. Folder 20 showed Yuna leading a team of 12 human soldiers against an entire enemy regiment of 800 fighters. The battle lasted 3 days and when it was over the humans had won with only 1 injury. But it was not just the numbers that scared him now. It was the way they fought. The humans did not charge into battle like brave warriors. They did not rely on superior weapons or armor. Instead they thought like predators hunting prey. They studied their enemies for weeks before attacking, learning their habits and weaknesses. They knew when the enemies ate, when they slept, when they changed guards. In Folder 21, Vextar watched Yuna and her team destroy an enemy supply convoy without firing a single shot. They had studied the route for days, then set up traps along the road. They made the enemies think they were being attacked from one direction while the real danger came from another. By the time the enemy soldiers realized what was happening, half of them were already dead from hidden explosives and carefully placed sniper fire. The remaining enemies surrendered without a fight. They were too scared and confused to keep fighting. Psychological warfare is often more effective than direct combat, Yuna's voice said calmly through the recording. Fear is a weapon that never runs out of ammunition. Vextar paused the video and rubbed his aching head. Fear as a weapon. He was beginning to understand why enemy forces had started retreating whenever they heard humans were involved in operations. It was not just about the high kill counts. It was about the way humans made war itself feel hopeless. Folder 25 documented something called the Tau Ceti Siege. Vextar read the mission brief 3 times before he could believe it. A single human platoon of 30 soldiers had been ordered to hold a strategic mountain pass against an enemy army of over 5,000 troops. Military experts from every species agreed this was impossible. The humans should have been wiped out in the first hour. Instead, they held the pass for 18 days. Vextar watched the helmet camera footage from different soldiers during the siege. The humans had turned the mountain pass into a death trap. They used the rocks and cliffs to create choke points where the enemy could only attack a few soldiers at a time. They set up hidden weapon positions that could shoot enemies from multiple angles. They even caused avalanches to bury entire enemy units under tons of rock and snow. But the most frightening part was how they worked together. The humans moved like parts of a single deadly machine. When one soldier ran out of ammunition, another was already there with more bullets. When enemies tried to flank around one position, they walked into traps set by other humans who had predicted exactly where they would go. Yuna herself had killed over 400 enemies during those 18 days. But she was not even the highest scorer in her unit. A sergeant named Miho Park had killed 637 enemies, and he had done it while also coordinating the defense of the entire pass. The siege ended when enemy reinforcements arrived to find that their 5,000-soldier army had been reduced to fewer than 800 survivors. The enemy commander ordered a full retreat. In his final report, he wrote that fighting humans was like fighting ghosts who could predict the future. Folder 30 showed an even more disturbing truth. Humans did not just win battles through individual skill or small unit tactics. They understood war at every level, from single combat to fleet operations spanning multiple star systems. The Deep Space Interdiction campaign had lasted 8 months and covered 12 different solar systems. Yuna had been part of a special operations team that targeted enemy supply lines, communication networks, and command structures. They did not just kill enemy soldiers. They destroyed the enemy's ability to fight at all. Vextar watched recordings of Yuna infiltrating enemy space stations, disabling their weapon systems from the inside, and then disappearing before anyone knew she had been there. He saw her team capture enemy officers and extract information about troop movements, supply routes, and strategic plans. They used this information to set ambushes that destroyed entire enemy fleets before they could reach their targets. The humans fought like they could see the entire war from above, like they understood how every small action would affect the bigger picture. They did not just react to enemy moves. They made the enemies react to them. By the end of that campaign, enemy forces in all 12 systems had either surrendered or fled to neutral space. The humans had effectively conquered an area of space larger than most species' entire territories, and they had done it with fewer than 2,000 soldiers. Vextar looked at the tablet screen and saw he still had 13 more folders to review. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the device. Each folder represented months or years of warfare, thousands of enemy deaths, and tactical innovations that changed how battles were fought across the galaxy. "How long have your people been preparing for war?" he asked. Yuna looked at him with those calm, dark eyes. "We have never stopped preparing for war," she said quietly. "It is what we do." Vextar sat in complete silence for a long time after closing the last folder. His tablet showed he had been reviewing files for almost 6 hours. The small room felt different now, like the air itself had changed. Across from him, Yuna waited patiently, her hands still folded on the metal table. 43 folders. Each one filled with impossible victories and kill counts that defied belief. Vextar had watched this small human woman fight in every type of environment the galaxy could offer. Underwater, in space, in toxic atmospheres, on worlds with crushing gravity, in burning cities and in frozen wastelands. She had faced enemies from dozens of different species, each with their own advantages and special abilities. She had killed them all. But the files had shown him something much more frightening than just one deadly human soldier. They had shown him the truth about what humanity really was. "Your kill count," Vextar said finally, his voice hoarse from hours of silence. "The official number in your file. It really is too low, is it not?" Yuna nodded slowly. "The official count only includes kills that can be completely verified. Video evidence, witness statements, body counts, weapon signatures. Many battles happen in places where we cannot go back to count the dead. Space battles, for example. When you blow up an enemy ship, you know there were people inside, but you cannot count exactly how many. How many do you think you have really killed?" "I stopped counting after 5,000, Yuna said simply. The number became meaningless. Vextar felt cold despite the warm air in the room. 5,000 deaths. One human had personally killed more enemies than entire armies from other species managed in major wars. And she spoke about it like it was nothing special. "The classified operations you mentioned," he said. "What is in those files?" "Things that would cause panic if other species knew about them," Yuna answered. "Infiltration missions. Assassination operations. Entire enemy fleets that simply disappeared without anyone knowing why. Wars that ended before they officially started because the right people died at the right time." Vextar understood now why the Coalition had been so eager to recruit humans when they first made contact. It was not because humans were particularly smart or had good technology. Other species had those advantages too. Humans had something much more valuable. They were born killers who had spent thousands of years learning how to kill their own kind. "Your species fought wars against itself before you came to space," Vextar said. "It was not a question. For our entire recorded history," Yuna confirmed. "We have been fighting each other since we learned to make weapons. Every advancement in science, every new technology, every discovery about the world around us, we immediately figured out how to use it to kill our enemies more efficiently. And now you bring those skills to fight for the Coalition." "We bring those skills to fight for whoever pays us," Yuna corrected. "Right now, that happens to be the Coalition. But humans are not naturally loyal to any government or cause except our own survival." This was the most terrifying thing Vextar had heard all day. Humans were not just deadly warriors. They were deadly warriors who could be hired. If the Coalition ever stopped being able to pay them, or if someone offered them a better deal, these perfect killers could become enemies instead of allies. "Why are you showing me this?" Vextar asked. "These files prove that humans are more dangerous than any species in the galaxy." "Why would you want me to know that?" Yuna's cold smile returned. "Because you doubted my kill count. You thought humans were liars and show-offs. You needed to understand what you were really dealing with." "And what am I dealing with?" "A species that has spent 50,000 years perfecting the art of war," Yuna said. "We did not become good at fighting because we joined the galactic community. We became good at fighting because every human who was bad at it died before they could have children. For thousands of generations, only the survivors got to pass on their genes. Only the killers lived long enough to teach their skills to the next generation." Vextar stared at the small black device in his hands. It contained proof that humanity was not just another member species of the Coalition. They were something else entirely. They were evolution's answer to the question of what the perfect predator would look like. And there were billions of them. "How many humans like you are there?" he asked. "In active military service?" "About 12 million, Yuna said casually. "But every human receives basic combat training in school. Even our civilians know how to fight. 12 million professional killers, backed by a population of civilians who could become soldiers at any time." Vextar finally understood why enemy species had started surrendering rather than fighting when humans appeared on the battlefield. Yuna stood up and held out her hand for the data device. "Any other questions about my service record, Commander?" Vextar handed her the device with shaking claws. He could not speak. His worldview had been completely destroyed and rebuilt in the space of one afternoon. Yuna pocketed the device and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she paused and looked back at him. "Welcome to the new galaxy, Commander. Try not to get on our bad side."